never say die. They'll win it with offense, they'll win it with D. And Super Bowl bound is what we will be.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Joey.
And we are the hosts of Next Year Is Now, a Cleveland Brown fan podcast by fans, for fans.
Back and tie the game, and we're going to go to overtime. Listen to Cleveland Stadium.
Here come the Browns. Onward to victory. Here come the Browns. Here come the Browns. The number one Browns. The pride of Cleveland. Cleveland Browns. Here come the Browns.
Next Year's Now is brought to you by the Moorhead clan. Visit us at nextyearsnow.podbean.com. Feel free to leave your comments and ideas. We love to engage with fellow fans. Just remember to keep it respectful, as this is a family enterprise.
Well, welcome, Joey, to bi-week edition of Next Year Is Now.
Thank you. This should be a fun episode.
Yeah, it'll be all right. We're going to get through our regular news. We're going to talk about the game against the Falcons. And then, of course, we're not going to talk about this week's game because there is no game. But we'll talk about a couple other things that should be a lot of fun. And we are broadcasting tonight. It's a Saturday night. And we are broadcasting from our new studio setup. Mm-hmm. We moved things around in the basement of our house where we do our recording. It's a beautiful finished basement. And we've now got a setup where we've got two desks. And Joey and I can actually face each other and have a conversation while we're talking instead of both staring together at the same wall and not really being able to look at each other as we speak. So this is a really nice new setup. We got the family computer down here now, and everybody's microphones are set up with space. We even have space now for our third guest if a guest joins us.
I've got this nice large desk right now. Just have this nice arm space.
Lots of space. We each have our computers in front of us. This is what we envisioned at the beginning. This is how it should be. So a lot of fun coming in the future with this new setup. Not that you're going to notice it, but we certainly do, and it'll be a lot of fun for us. Well, let's jump into the news this week. I'll get us started. Nick Chubb, Rookie of the Week, again. I think that's out of 10 or 11 weeks. I think the Browns have won 7 times in 11 weeks. Pretty awesome. He certainly deserved it. Almost 200 yards rushing, a couple touchdowns, great receiving day, just a stud. And then Dorsey, GM John Dorsey, met with the media this week to discuss the, kind of the midway point of the season. He likes to do that during the bye week, he said. And, of course, we have a big, coaching search going on. He addressed that, but he is not giving anything away. And I wouldn't expect him to. He kept his cards very close to his vest when he was making the decision about Baker Mayfield, and we didn't really know right up until they made that pick, and it was that day it was kind of breaking. It's going to be Mayfield.
Right.
And it was so intense. We were so sure. It was Darnold the night before, and it's crazy. It'll be very interesting to see what he does with this coaching search, which will be an item for conversation here in the next week or so as we get going into our head coaching tracker. Mm-hmm. What do you have this week?
Well, Hugh Jackson was hired by the Bengals, so, I'm sorry, Bengals, but
he will be the assistant to the regional manager.
Okay. And Greg Williams gave the Browns a whole week off as a reward for their victory.
Well deserved.
Definitely. They need to know they're not going to get this often, if any more, but since it is the bye week.
Yeah, good time to do it. Take the whole week off, re-energize. Let's come back fresh. We have 6 games to go. That is one thing Dorsey spoke a lot about this week. I heard several interviews with him, and in every single one he said, our major focus is we got 6 weeks, 6 games of football to play here before the season's done. The season's not done by any stretch of the imagination. The way the schedule's breaking down even this week, there are several teams that are 4-5, 5-5, that are 6-4, kind of right on that bubble. The Browns are only 3-6-1. We are not out of the hunt. It could get really interesting if the Browns come back and beat the Bengals. All of a sudden, we're 4-6-1. Depending on what happens with the Bengals and Ravens this weekend, they could be falling to, 5-5, 6-5, something like that. We have a chance to really make up some ground in this game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, hey, we'll see what happens. Let's move into the good, the bad, and the ugly of last week's game. Well, there was a lot of good in this game. You know, the passing, the running, the defense, the special teams.
Right.
What else?
Well, there was, good blocking, very, very good coaching, and a very, very small amount of penalties.
Absolutely. Minimal penalties. The Browns played as complete a game as we have seen them play in years. I mean, I can't remember the last time I felt so good about all three phases of the game. And it was just, that's what I want to see week in, week out. We came out of the gate playing hard, scoring points, defense playing well. And we played a full game. It wasn't like at any point in the game you had that typical Browns lull. Like, man, we started well, but then there's 2 quarters of nothing.
But do you know what it was? The uniforms.
I didn't have that in the show notes this week. But you're right. Been waiting for that brown on orange. Been waiting for pretty much anything but white on white, And a couple weeks ago against the Chiefs, I thought the brown on brown was a nice look because they can't wear the alternates. They can only wear them one more time this year. I'm sure they weren't going to save them for the Chiefs game.
Right.
But that's as close as you can get to the alternates, to the color rush, is to go brown on brown. And that's all right. But that look is something that, brings out my childhood. And you're talking about a short quarterback that we have now that's just lighting it up. Reminds me of another short quarterback we used to have, Brian Sipe, who wore that brown on orange. Now I'm just waiting to see white on orange because I love those orange pants. And, I'm not a big fan of these uniforms that they've got. But when they wear those, it's at least a little bit fun. I feel like they play really well in those combos.
Yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to wear these orange pants every week. I mean, obviously.
No, you can. It's not an alternate thing.
No,
Pants are allowed.
It looks great.
It does. It does. Say what you want. What does it really matter with uniforms? If you feel good about the way you look, then you play better. These guys, especially this generation, they dig uniforms. They want to look good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, brown on brown, white on white, it's just kind of stale. Let's get a little flashy here. I want to see white on orange. I actually wrote Mary Kay Cabot a question this week, the writer for The Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com. I was hoping she would answer it in her Hey Mary Kay this week, but she did not. I asked, who makes the decision on what the Browns wear on a given Sunday? And I just would love to know if anybody knows that out there. Please, shoot us a tweet or email the show or something like that, because we would love to know who makes that decision. We would like to make a plea. Let's see those orange pants on a regular basis. Let's have some fun. All right. So, yeah, good call on that, Joe. Anything bad in this game?
Well, the trick play where the ball was thrown to Baker Mayfield, it was a bad throw. He was practically being double-teamed, and, it was a pick. But at least Baker wasn't the one throwing the pick.
Yeah, that's right.
That was definitely bad.
Yeah, it was bad. We had a good drive going. We were already being gimmicky because we were using the wishbone formation, or at least a version of the wishbone. And that's something that you wouldn't know, but it's from the 70s and 80s. It's even older than that, but it was very popular at Oklahoma, Nebraska. A lot of these types of schools, they used to run the wishbone all the time. Very few teams still use the wishbone formation, like maybe Army or Navy or something like that. 3 running backs in the backfield. But with today's NFL, that's actually something that can be very creative and useful because the game is no longer just vertical. It's side to side. And when you've got that many guys in the backfield, especially against defenses that are largely unfamiliar with defending this, what are the Browns going to do? You've got Chubb, you can hand it to. You've got Duke, you could hand it to. Hilliard. All of them can catch the ball, and Duke is a real weapon catching. There are some things that you can do. Not to mention the RPOs that could come out of that. And Baker is great at RPOs, so that, man, I'd like to see that little wrinkle. Not all the time. I don't want to see us running a wishbone all the time.
Right.
But I'd like to see that wrinkle come out every once in a while. Maybe not even every game. Maybe every third game. Just to keep defenses honest and give them something to think about. But
the
you don't
wishbone
need the extra gimmicks,
Was the wishbone, is that the triangle-like formation?
Yeah.
I like that. That was cool, like all those different kinds of plays you can get out of that. And we were moving the ball down the field. That was really nice.
Yeah. And how about the ugly? Anything?
No, I've got nothing.
Nothing ugly. That was one heck of a game. Nothing to say about that. Let's talk about our hero of the week for this past game. I'm going to give it to Kitchens. I thought he drew up a heck of an offense. He continues to make Mayfield look good. And that's important as a rookie. I mean, it's not easy. So to draw things up that Mayfield is really good at and comfortable with, as he gets acclimated to the NFL and continues to learn to read defenses and all that, build on that confidence. I mean, this kid is off to an amazing start, and we are going to talk about just how good of a start he's off to. And we'll get to that in a second. But who's your hero of the week?
My hero of the week is Nick Chubb. 2 touchdowns and about 210 yards.
Yeah. What a stud.
Yeah.
This is why you don't draft Saquon Barkley in the top 5. This is why you wait until round 2 or 3 or 4 to get a running back, because Nick Chubb is an absolute stud. Kareem Hunt is an absolute stud.
More importantly,
Alvin Kamara is a stud. All these guys, you don't need to draft a running back high. You don't.
More importantly, this is why you have John Dorsey, because he's the one who got us Chubb.
Yeah.
That's good.
He's smart. Again, how many times have the Packers, or the Chiefs, in their association, in the time that Dorsey was associated with them, how many times have they taken running back in round 1? You're right, 0. How many times in round 2? Now twice. Chubb is the second. So you don't do it. You just don't do it. Chubb is very special. You got to remember that there was a time at Georgia when he was a freshman before he blew out his knee. He was every bit as dynamic and sparkling and special as Barkley and Gurley. He actually followed Gurley at Georgia. So this is a guy who, and then he blew out his knee. It took him a year to get back onto the field. Took him another year to get back up to speed. And then by the time him and Sony and Michelle were just tearing people to shreds, you weren't seeing very much of Chubb. It gave him another year to rest that knee. I think he's now back to where he was. And this guy's unbelievable. 92-yard run. Brown's record. The guy, he's not just a
amazing.
big bruiser. He does it all. And it's another reason, talking about this, you don't draft them high, and you also don't spend tens of millions of dollars on these guys. Why would you go out and spend money on Le'Veon Bell next year? And I'm talking about whoever gets him. You're going to spend 15, 16, 17 million a year on a guy that you could draft in round 2 or 3.
On a cancer.
When did the Steelers get James Conner? Round 3?
I have no idea.
Round 4. And he's putting up numbers that are as good as Bell's. So it's pointless. I actually wish that Bell had taken the Steelers' offer last offseason, which was around 15 million a year, 14, 15 million a year, and he declined. And that would have tied the Steelers up for years with money at a position that you don't want to throw a ton of money at. Now, you can throw money at it if you're in a situation where you've got one of those quarterbacks on a rookie contract and you're not paying him huge money yet. You could do it. All right. But you don't do it when you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're paying a ton of money to Ben and a ton of money on Antonio Brown. You can't afford to give that kind of money to a running back. So I wish he had taken that deal. Anyway, to our heroes of the week.
Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
On to our goats. I'll let you start off with the goats.
All right, well, let me just say this week was unlike many other weeks where it's typically hard to find a hero and super easy to find a goat. This week, it was the opposite way around. Very easy to find a hero, and you had to dig a little bit deeper to find a goat. My goat is the Bengals for hiring Hugh Jackson. So,
yeah. What a bad move. He thrives down there. He's buddies with Marvin Lewis. Again, he's been a very good offensive coordinator in the past, and we can't really knock him for that. He's good at what he's good at, and that's not head coaching, and it certainly wasn't here. I'm sure he's going to try to help the Bengals, gain, as much knowledge about our team this year as he can. What are Baker's weaknesses? How can you stop Chubb? What are the weak links in our offensive line? How to attack those? How about our defense? Where would you attack the defense? Hugh does have good knowledge of all that. It's going to be incumbent upon Freddie Kitchens and Greg Williams to draw up stuff that is different to surprise the Bengals.
Yeah, but we could have made the same argument about when we brought in Hugh, how he's going to know all this about the Bengals, and we did just as bad against the Bengals.
We did worse. We did worse against the Bengals while Hugh was our coach than we did before. And that's kind of funny, isn't it? It's sad. So you're right. There must be something about Hugh Jackson being on the same field as the Cleveland Browns and him coming out the loser. And that's what I think, I hope anyway, is what happens going forward. My go to the week will be Hilliard for throwing that interception, really the only blemish on this past game. And sorry, Hilliard, this is not a knock on you because I really didn't have anything else to put up there. As Joey pointed out, it's kind of tough finding a GOAT this week. So to my GOAT.
He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
I'm sorry, what? Pit of misery, dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
And now we're going to move into our upcoming events and discussion points that we're going to do in place of our preview of this coming week's game, since there isn't one. I want to talk about, real quickly, the head coach tracker. We broke it down a little bit. We're going to start doing that more heavily, I think, in the next week or two. We're going to take a look at guys with previous head coaching experience. That could include guys who are in the league right now as head coaches that are probably not going to be brought back. Hot NFL coordinators and college innovators who are young, bright, offensive minds. Those are the three groups that I think we're going to be talking about to see if we can narrow down who we think the Browns will likely land on as coach. But this week, I want to give special attention to Greg Williams and the Freddie Kitchens combo. If they continue putting out a product like we've seen the last 2 weeks, mind you, we got beat fair and square by the Chiefs. It was a good, sound beating. But we represented ourselves well, and the offense played well. The defense, all things considered, they kept up with Kansas City as well as anyone has this whole year, to be honest.
Right.
And we were banged up to smithereens, and we still managed a decent game. This week, we played a very good and very hot Atlanta Falcons team, and we played great defense against one of the NFL's best offenses, and frankly, a very good veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan with great weapons. And I know that Atlanta's defense is not the best in the world, but we played a good offensive game, as expected. And that's not something we've always seen. We should have seen great offense against Tampa, and we didn't, So Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, they seem to be doing all the right things. What will it take for them to stay? Is it even possible? Dorsey said this week, Greg Williams will definitely be interviewed for the job, that he has earned the right to interview for this job. But honestly, what else would he say? I want to know, legitimately, what do you think, Joe? How much would it take for these guys to stay?
I think it would take, out of the next 6 games, I think it would be fair to give him 4 games. I think if he wins 4 out of the next 6 games with Freddie Kitchens, I think Greg Williams has a very, very large chance of staying head coach. And then, if it all falls apart midway next season or something, then, you find someone else, I guess. But I think 4 out of the next 6 games will probably keep him here.
Okay. I think that's the number I'm looking at too. And I'm gonna give kind of a three-way scenario. If we win 3 out of the next 6, that would mean that under Williams, the second half of the season, we finished 4-4. Respectable. Because if you looked at this team at the beginning of the season and you said, what's our record going to be? How many wins are we going to have? Well, that would give us 6 wins for the season, and I think that's what most people expected the Browns could do. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what Dorsey expected. Maybe he expected 8, 9, 10 wins. Maybe he expected us immediately to challenge for the division. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. So anything short of 9 wins for him might be a disappointment. But most of us, realistically, were saying, we could see this team winning 6, maybe as many as 9, right?
Yeah.
Well, they will have met that 6 if they win 3 of these last 6. I think that puts Williams in the discussion, especially as you see the way the players respond to him and Kitchens, and especially considering the importance of continuity. If you can somehow get away with firing your head coach and keeping continuity, that's a win-win. You know what I mean? We got rid of Hugh, and we're able to keep continuity. We've wanted continuity for so long, but maybe it was just we needed a different voice at the head position. And who knows?
I mean, I'll tell you what. I didn't see this when Hugh Jackson was head coach, but our players actually looked like they were having fun out there.
A lot.
Whenever there was any big play, a touchdown, Baker was running down when Chubb had that big run like he always does.
Yep.
The whole team was getting in there. That was exciting.
Yep. And when you heard, I don't know if you got to hear any of it this week, there were some great clips of Baker. He was mic'd up for the game. And just to hear his comments, you're right. They were having a lot of fun out there. After the game, I saw a lineman run and jump into Greg Williams and hoisted him up in the air. Mm-hmm. In the locker room afterward, the guys were razzing Greg Williams and just celebrating with him. You could tell they love this guy. Offensive and defensive guys love this guy. That says a lot. You cannot overlook that. He may not be that, that hot name, that brilliant mind, but maybe he's the right guy for our team right now. And you're right. You could give him a 2-year deal, kind of a prove-it deal. And if it doesn't work after 1 year, you'll know. But if you let him go and you bring somebody else in here and it falls flat, we're always going to wonder, were we on the right track with Greg Williams? And is part of the reason it falls apart the fact that these guys want Williams around, and they might. So I think 3 wins gets the conversation real. Mm-hmm. 4 wins, I agree with you. It gives them an honest-to-goodness chance to be the head coach. I mean, hey, this team would finish with 7 wins, 8 losses, and 1 tie. That's a heck of a record this year. Mm-hmm. We would all be happy with it if you told us at the beginning of the season, Browns are guaranteed going to be 7, 8, and 1.
Oh, that'd
Will you be happy with it? We would take it.
I wouldn't believe it. Right. Compared to the year before,
no,
I'd be
will go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would give him a 5-3 record in the last 8 in the games that he coached. That's playoff-worthy football. You do that over the course of a season, you're 10-6 and you're in the playoffs. You do that with a team next year that has more experience and has more talent added to it by Dorsey in the draft and free agency. This team is looking at 11 or 12 wins next year. So Williams, you're right, 4. I think it makes it a legit possibility. He wins 5 or more out of the last.
That's guaranteed.
He'd better be the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Because that gives us a winning record for the first time in ages since 2007. And he's got us on the right track. And it's what's the difference? The difference isn't the players. The difference, and in fact, if you want to talk about it, I mean, the schedule at the end of the year is probably harder than the schedule was at the beginning of the year. I mean, we had some patsies, the Jets, the Raiders, the Buccaneers, and we weren't able to beat these guys.
Right.
You know, we beat the Jets. But now you look at it, all these teams we're facing either have a winning record or they're 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Like you said, I think it was yesterday. This year, if we do have 4 or more wins with Greg Williams and he does stay, next year we're going to have an easier schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Because this year we were hit in the mouth with our schedule. We had a really rough schedule.
Yep, next year's schedule, you're right. Even though it will bring the AFC East and the Patriots and the NFC West and the Rams, we also get the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Cardinals, the 49ers. That's 5 wins right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those teams are weak. So we legitimately, a much softer schedule. The Bengals may fall apart. The Ravens are on their way to falling apart. Things are really looking good. It's set up beautifully. So yeah, 5 or more, Williams is the man.
Mm-hmm.
3 or less, less than 3, forget it. 3, the guy's giving himself a shot. 4, it's a legit shot. 5 or more, he'd better be the coach. Even if it's just a 2-year deal. And if he fails after year 1, you let him go. And you do this thing again. And this team, with Baker heading into year 3 at that point, is going to look as attractive or more attractive a year from now than it does right now. And right now, it looks really good. So, some thoughts. I want to talk very briefly before we move on to our picks for the week. Baker Mayfield. Right now, his record as a starter is 3-4. He has completed 62% of his passes for 1,984 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He is on pace to finish with 62%, although that will improve because his percentages have continued to improve weekly. 62% completion percentage, 3,815 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. That will put him in rare air in Browns history in terms of yardage and touchdown passes in a single season. And when you compare those numbers, even those numbers that I just listed that he's on pace for, you compare those to the best, NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks and their rookie seasons, that puts him right up there among the very best rookie years ever. Now, keep in mind, he didn't play the whole season. What would a full season projection be? 62%. This is all 16 games. 62% completions, 4,883 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. Rookie year. Rookie. Wow. That's unbelievable numbers. We have never seen those kind of numbers in Cleveland. There has been one 4,000-yard passer in Cleveland Browns history. One. Brian Sipe. Back in the days of the original Cardiac Kids. One. We've never had a guy crack 4,000 again. Or before. And this kid is doing it as a rookie. Crazy. He's going to be so good. We finally found the guy.
And not only that, but he wants to be here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You get the feeling he's going to be one of those guys that, he will be here for the long haul. We also have another rookie offensively. Nick Chubb. Right now, in the last 4 games, he has 78 carries for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, that's just on the ground because he got a couple extra touchdowns receiving, and he's gotten some more yards receiving, but I'm not even talking about that. In the last 4 games, guys got 100 yards a game. He is on pace, if you include what he did with his 2 or 6 touches over the first 4 games of the season or 3 games of the season. If you include the yards he got from that and the very few touches, he's on pace for 214 yards 214 carries, 1,188 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I mean, that's where we can expect him to finish this season.
Mm-hmm.
Man, 1,200-yard rusher, double-digit touchdowns for a guy
take that
who
as a rookie.
didn't even start until, week 4 or week 5?
Like, I never expected this out of him when we first drafted him. I had no idea.
If he had been the full-time starter from week 1, his numbers project out to 320 carries. That's bell cow stuff. That's Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley type of give me the ball, okay? 320 carries, 1,625 yards, and 12 touchdowns. That would make him the number 1 rusher in the league. That guy is a star. And him and Baker together, Callaway has been doing what the last couple weeks?
Catching the ball.
Catching the ball. And he's made a couple clutch ones too. And he, on those slants, and he goes for 15, 20 yards. It's just coming around. It is. Landry's already Landry. He's not going to get any better. He's not going to get much worse because he's only 25 years old. He's a fantastic go-to guy when you need a go-to guy. Njoku's been catching the ball. We know he can be a threat. He's only, 22 years old? Just wait. Callaway, he's only 21. Wow.
Not to mention, if we do need another wide receiver, I think we'll be in the spot in the draft where we will have the opportunity to get a first-round wide receiver. I think we'll be close to the middle of the pack, which isn't too soon to get it. If there's a wide receiver of that talent, I think that would be fine.
Or a left tackle. But that's if we determine we need a left tackle, right? Because Greg Robinson is playing so well at left tackle right now. If he continues that, there's a guy who's only 25 or 26 years old, who's got a lot of starts under his belt, but who now seems to have figured out how to play in the NFL. We also have Desmond Harrison, who if he bulks up a little bit, and after a year of experience, who knows? Maybe this guy, maybe we hit. It's a diamond in the rough. Got nothing to lose there. It's the one position, that and receiver, when you look at what Dorsey said was so important in building a team. Number 1, quarterback. Number 2, pass rusher. Number 3, corner. Number 4, or number 5, depending on who you talk to, this is what Dorsey said back in the draft days, is either receiver or left tackle. Well, those are the 2 positions we have left, receiver and left tackle. And so, we could always add another D tackle or a D end and continue to put pressure on teams, or another corner. But yeah, I'm with you.
Oh yeah, speaking of another rookie, Ward, he's been doing so great as well.
That's what I mean. Check, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Baker, quarterback, check. Garrett, defensive end, check. Ward, corner, check. I mean, you've got studs at those positions. Now you just need a wide receiver. Who knows? Maybe Callaway is that stud. And then left tackle, who knows? Maybe those guys are already there. But we are well on our way. Thank God. It's about time. Well, we do have a bye this week, so we won't be making a Browns pick. In our trifecta picks last week, I was 2-1. That brings me up to 19-11 for the year. And Joey?
I was also 2-1. Brings me to 17-13. So you are on pace to do the same thing, almost the same thing you did to me last year. Beat me by 1 or 2, so yeah.
We'll see. This week I did make a change in my picks because I saw what you did. And we would have had the same sure thing. But I had 2 in mind, so I was okay with switching over. My sure thing this week, I'm taking the Steelers to beat the Jaguars. It's at Jacksonville. I usually, I try to go with home teams on these. In this case, I just feel like the Steelers are so hot right now. They are destroying people. The Jags played well against the Colts last week, but they still couldn't beat the Colts. I just see the Steelers kind of rolling the Jags, especially since the Steelers are going to want some revenge for last year's playoff embarrassment in Pittsburgh. Your sure thing.
I've got the Chargers over the Broncos. Well, the Broncos, they were supposed to have this really awesome defense, and they haven't really had it. And they don't really have much of an offense either. And the Chargers, they've got an electrifying offense. And, well.
The Chargers are as hot as anybody right now. And they're on fire. That team could legitimately win the AFC West. I know they got to go through the Chiefs, but they could beat the Chiefs. And if they beat the Chiefs, all bets are off. Anybody wins that division. The Chargers or the Chiefs will make the playoffs. Okay, both. Both will make the playoffs. One will be a wild card, and one will win that division and challenge for home field in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be one playoff spot left, and we're all going to be clamoring for it. Hopefully the Browns get themselves at least in the hunt to make it fun. My underdog this week, I'm going to take the Buccaneers over the Giants. This one's in Tampa, and they both stink, but the Bucs do have a pretty stinking exciting offense, and I feel like they can put up enough offense to beat the Giants. Now the Giants, they've got weapons. Does Eli have enough in the tank against a weak Buccaneer defense to make it interesting? I think he does. Certainly made it interesting against the Niners last week. I think they beat the Niners. And, but I'm going to take the Bucs. How about your underdog?
Well, this is a very exciting game. I assume it's the game of the week. I don't know. I've got the Chiefs over the Rams. This is going to be an amazing game. Probably two best teams in the NFL up against each other. The Chiefs are the underdog, and I don't know, honestly, which way this game is going to go. So, I picked that as my underdog.
I think it's a good one because, to me, that game is a flip of a coin. I have no idea who's going to win that game. I can give you reasons why I think one or the other. I think the Rams have a more complete team. They actually have a defense, but their defense hasn't really been stopping anybody.
Yeah, and not to mention this game is in Mexico City, so that there is no home field advantage.
They moved it.
Oh,
it's in Los Angeles because the field in Mexico City was so awful. It was too dangerous for the team. I also think with the Rams players, so many of them are displaced right now, and coaches are displaced out of their homes because of the wildfires out there. To me, that's one reason I think the Chiefs could get the Rams on this one. You got a bunch of guys who are concerned about things other than football. Those fires are a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
People are dying, and people's houses and, belongings are being incinerated, and that has to get to you. And I don't know. I think this is a good one to pick the Chiefs on. So we'll see. But anyway, I hope it's a great game. I can't wait to watch that game. All right. Well, that is about it for this week. I don't think there's anything else. We want to thank all our subscribers for listening. We love talking about the Browns. We hope you feel like you're part of the conversation. You can be part of the conversation by following and tweeting at us at Mark C. Moorhead.
Also, if you enjoy the podcast, please consider leaving us a short review on iTunes. Those reviews are essential to the growth of our show and ensure that we will continue to provide you and many others with excellent content on a regular basis. Until next time, remember, there's no more waiting until next year. Next year is now. Go Browns.
Here come the Browns, the #1 Browns, the pride of Cleveland, Cleveland Browns. Here come the Browns, here come the Browns.